What's up, y'all? What's up? It's your girl, Kishshana. Wait a minute. I think the camera's in the wrong. I'm not going to touch it, y'all, because I feel like the camera's in the wrong direction. This is what happens when I do stuff at home and I have my stand-up, sit-down desk. Lord. Well, it is Tuesday, October 25th, and we are here for another shot of vitamin K. If this is the first time you are tuning in, welcome to my home office. My name is Kishshana Palmer, and I am the CEO of Kishshana & Co. We are a management and leadership learning company where we help everyday leaders just like you live well and lead well. Y'all, today we are going to have a time. You know, when I think about the work that I am so fortunate to do, I get to work with some amazing folks. And a lot of people, when they do their shows, they, trying to find a new guest every week. Y'all, that's exhausting. Okay. Shout out to the people who could do it, but Kishshana is not among them. But I am so fortunate that my crew of good girlfriends, sisters, of sorors, of business besties, of colleagues are some of the baddest in the land. And I decided that when we see our show every week, y'all are going to just show up for the goodness of the people who are already in our orbit. So you can have all of the armchair experts who have done all the schooling that they must do. So I want to stand up and show my shirt today. But child, who got the shirt? Wait a minute. I need to look a little. Tanika? No, it wasn't Tanika. Okay, y'all. I was trying to give a shout out to who I purchased the shirt from today. But of course, I'm having a brain fart, which is hilarious. Oh, hello. I did it right. Okay, hold on. I'm going to stand up, y'all, because I'm going to close my door. Today's shirt is Impact Over Influence. I'm super excited about that. My pants do match. Hold on, y'all. I'm about to close my office door. Y'all know y'all are in my home office, so y'all are in my home. And so today we are going to be talking about leadership trauma. So buckle up, and buckle in. Tag a friend who you know has been leading from a place of trauma, who has been in the CYA. Y'all know what that means. Find a way or make one. I had to get it out the mud, so you do too. Yeah, we all have a friend or two or three or a dozen, and we all have been that place. And so y'all don't know this, but just about every morning, I get to have conversations with my sister, Rochelle Sadipo, who is the creative director and CEO of Rose Red Etc. and Rose Red Paper Studio. And we talk about all manner of stuff that I always wish was recorded. And so today, when I was thinking about who am I going to talk to about leadership trauma, I actually called her this morning and said, "You dressed? Because I want you to come on so we can talk about how we have been navigating leading our companies, our team members, alongside our clients, our peers, when we have experienced strife and trauma at work." And I think there's a lot of conversation around psychological safety, and there's a lot of conversation about a culture of care, but I think we skip to the solution without being able to dig enough into the challenge so that we have the right context. And so I'm inviting Rochelle in today to be able to talk about it. Let me look at the comments today and see who's hanging out with that. Yes, come on, Monique said, "Oh, you love my shirt? Good." Tanisha, hopefully she will see this soon. She's the one who, her company is the one who created it. And so I'm excited to rock it. I love it. Okay, so I'm adding Rochelle to the stream. My darling, welcome.
Hey.
So, Rochelle, you notice you're looking good. Oh, we did not plan clear glasses and black on today.
But somehow it happened.
Always happens. So I'm so glad that you were able to gather yourself to join me today. So I figured we're going to talk about leadership trauma. And you and I have talked a lot about leading. And you have what I know is about to be your book, OBWS syndrome. Right. No, OBWS is the syndrome.
Yes.
So we're going to talk about that today, too. Some of y'all put OBWS right there right now on your digital notebooks, because that's going to be something that's going to change your whole life.
Registered trademark.
Don't be trying to come up and bite it, because, look, we will sue. Okay? Hello? We sick of y'all taking our stuff. So the reason I wanted to talk to you about trauma is because I have been doing a lot of coaching over the last few months. I had put down my coaching practice, this for a while, but folks have been coming around, and I have felt led in my spirit to work with leaders, CEOs, VPs, executives who are really trying to figure out who they want to be in life. A lot of us are mamas or caregivers, partners. And I used to think it was cliche that you start to find yourself in your 40s, but we are discovering Just like how I stopped working well on the 40th dot.
It's the truth. It's the truth. You know what it is? Because in your 20s, you are still very much so a part of what it is that you've been molded to be, right? So you're striving to please the parents. You're leading with some of your trauma. You know, you're leading with that expectation. In your 30s, you think that you're shedding that, right? But you attain some of these things. You're soaring to higher heights, and in some cases, we are surpassing what our parents have done in our 30s. But in our 40s, we have that experiential wisdom, and we start pulling at the threads of the dream or the expectation. And then after we pull the threads down, we realize it was actually a secret message that was saying, none of that stuff is important. Guess what?
Yes.
None of it.
None of it. None of it. And it's so funny. Just as we were doing this, you know, our other good friend, Joy Pittman, who runs HR for the Culture, I had texted her this morning and said, come on and jump on. So we might be on here with the good girlfriends having a conversation, child. The three of us. So buckle up, y'all. Get your lunch. Get your water. So in your 20s, you think you know the thing, but you really are still performing, right?
Yes.
You and I got married in our 20s.
Super early, super young. Became mothers in our 20s.
In our 20s. And let me tell you something, ma'am. I thought I had a plan. Oh, Jasmine said, happy to be here, ladies. Thank you for the space. And Monique is here with us. And we have another couple of folks who are jumping on.
Hey, y'all.
Did you write a 5-year plan in college?
I did write a 5. I'm going to do you one better. I wrote a 10-year plan. Yeah, I wrote a 10-year plan. And let me tell you what wasn't in my plan. Motherhood. Motherhood was not in there. I was not interested in becoming a mother. I had no plans of becoming a mother. Let me tell you how NuvaRing is a failure.
That's how Sanaa came to be. Anybody who had a baby in the early 2000s, I guarantee you, is because they were on a NuvaRing. Because that is how the Queenager came to be, because of that NuvaRing, child.
And that's how Picard came to be. So I didn't plan for motherhood. I did not plan for just how unprepared I was going to be after. What is the love? You always break down the phases of love. What's the honeymoon love?
Oh no, the honeymoon of the Eros is when it's the actual love.
I didn't have a plan for when Eros faded or abated. I did not have a plan for that. I did not have a plan for my resources drying up financially and not being able to do some of the things that I wanted to do. There was just no safety net whatsoever. I thought that I was just going to hit bat 100. I did not think there was going to be any issue. What about you? What is it that you expected in your 20s that didn't manifest? And then as a result of that thing not manifesting, colored your 30s?
Okay. So first of all, I done dropped to you in the chat all of the things of love, so you can see that in private chat. So
thank you.
Focus on all my business. So first of all, in my 5-year plan was not a career. It was motherhood, owning a home, being at the house. And I missed the part where my now ex-husband said, but my mama worked a full-time job and she had me and my brother and she took care of us. Why do you not want to work? And I was like, motherhood is working. But your mama looked stressed out and has frown lines and she real angry and tired. Why would you want that life for me? And unfortunately, I did not listen to the response. The brother did not care.
You heard him, but you didn't listen.
I heard him, but I didn't listen, because let me tell you what, we had done a 5-year plan in college, separate plans and together plans. So what did I do? I started chucking on my plan. I had the expectations of my parents, go to college, get a degree, get a good job, find a man, get married, have a baby, love Jesus. The end. So I was not thinking about what do I actually want for myself, because the program that I had been running was one of the dutiful daughter. And I had always dreamed of the big wedding, which I did not have, and the fantasy this and the big ring. And I had all manner of stuff. And some of y'all are hanging with us are going to be like, how does that lead into traumatic leadership?
Oh, it's coming.
It's coming. So first we're gonna pause right there. We're gonna bring Joy Pittman to the screen. Listen, now I done got my booze in the house. Forget it now. Y'all better just go get a drink. It's 5 o'clock somewhere because the crew is here.
Hey, Joy.
Hey,
So we have Joy
doing?
Pittman, CEO of HR for the Culture, and when faith meets strategy. And we have just been talking about like how do we get to the point where we are leading from trauma. And so Rochelle and I were talking about the fact that we got married in our 20s, that she and I both had babies in our 20s. Both of us did not expect it. Our children are the failures of the Nuva ring. And I wish they would have had a class action suit because I promise you we should have seen.
I'm telling you,
the number of people I know who got pregnant on that damn Nuva ring.
It's the failure of the Nuva ring.
It was a failure of Nuva ring. It says it on my record. But we were saying in our 20s that we also had, Rochelle had a 10-year plan. I had a 5-year plan. What did you have a plan? I feel like we are the planners of our friends.
In my 20s, I did have a plan. It looked nothing like what turned out. But I did have a plan. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, perfectly.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely did have. Do you want me to unpack the plan? Do you just want to know if I had one?
No, unpack the plan. Because I just said what was in mine.
Yeah. So,
marriage, baby's house. There was no job in my plan.
Yeah. So actually I graduated high school at 16. I started college at 16. So my plan was that I was going to be a 20-year-old college grad. I was going to have my master's by 22. I was going to be married because I'm cute and I should be procreating somewhere.
Can we just have a timeout for our nails in the chat? Can we just continue?
Yeah, and I was gonna I was going to, I actually wanted to do economic reform and work at the IMF. I had all these things kind of mapped out, and then life started life. And I lost my dad in my 20s. That kind of changed the trajectory of things that I had on radar. I had a really bad breakup with a person who got somebody else pregnant, and I was trying to figure out where we went left, like when we was having sex with other people. Like a lot happened in that period, and I don't think that I feel like I kept moving through, and I found the success that I was supposed to find, but definitely it wasn't the plan. Like it wasn't. It was not the way I had written it down. Okay.
Right. And so then we roll into our 30s, right? So then we start coming into ourselves. We think that we done got it right. Now, my goal, once I had a goal, and Joy, you can leave and come back if you need to because your thing froze, but we got you. Oh, there you go. You back. My goal was like, well, if I'm gonna be here, I'm gonna be the best at it. So you want me to work, evidently. So then my goal was 6 figures before 30 and a leadership position.
Oh, Jesus.
I was gunning for it. So now I'm 27 with a baby on the hip in my first leadership role because I was not playing. And right at 29, I slid in under the deadline. 6 figures in the house. Because that was the panacea. Even else for us as business owners. Ain't that the
of course.
Yeah. So every decision you're making is about something that is pretty nebulous. So what was your North Star when y'all were in your 30s that you now are looking back and going, damn, like who hurt me? Or what hurt me?
Yeah, I was trying to CHRO. Like I was CHROing by 30 something. 35 was kind of like my benchmark. I still had family on my mind. I definitely wanted to have kids before 35. Like that was because after 35 is geriatric and all the stuff you read, the horror stories. And by 35, just for framing, I had lost my dad and my sister. So I lost a sibling and a parent in my 20s. And so a lot of my 30s was spent trying to beat a clock, right? Because my sister died at 39, my dad was 53. So I was pacing to live some type of life before it was my turn to exit out too, right? So a lot of my own, that stuff was on my mind heavily, trying to make my mom proud, very soon. And so, she passed in December. And so like all of those things, I think I was chasing time. Like I was not chasing happiness. I was trying to outpace time and outpace time that I did not know if I had. Does So that there was a lot of those decisions were made very rushed. I don't remember enjoying much of my 30s or even being able to process much of what was going on in my 30s. It was just I had these clocks to beat, and I wasn't beating them well, because when you're in a rush,
right,
things are like different. And then even some career things, like I got right to the cusp, and some Wahite decided that they didn't want that I shouldn't get this promotion, and all those things were happening. And then I felt like other people were managing my clocks. Like I had done the work to be at the place I was supposed to be, and then somebody else got to make the decision for me, and that felt like it sucked. So it was just all those things. I felt like I was navigating at that time.
And Rochelle, I feel like y'all stories are very similar, like around loss and around beating the clock and around what you. So talk to me about how some of those things that were happening at that point started to influence the way you led.
Well, for me, I called my 30s the lost decade. Like I don't remember much. And I was crushed under the weight of the expectations that were thrust upon me by my mother. Then my mother died. And then that same year that she died, I lost my breast and my ovaries. So I've been menopausal. I was menopausal for all of my 30s. That impacted how I looked at myself as a woman. Like back then when I had my mastectomy, they made you look at yourself in the mirror after, because when you have your breast, it's an amputation. Okay. Yeah. It's not, you can't feel the skin around your breast. And depending upon the reconstruction you have, you can't feel it under your arms or your back. So I'm dealing with that as a young woman, as a mother of a young child. And I wanted to so desperately to be what I talk to Kishshana about all the time, which is the accomplished professional Black woman. You guys know this woman. She has Tory Burch flats. Okay. She's got the Louis Vuitton bag. She's got the very nice luxury automobile. Boom. There you go. She's typically a member of a Black Greek letter organization. She's in the creme de la creme of the Facebook groups and goes to all of the events. And I wanted so desperately to be that person. But then I'm also a creative and an artist. And so I found myself at war within. And then when my mother died, I started feeling like, oh my God, I've got to accomplish. I've got to achieve. There's no time. I'm languishing in the pit of despair of Black womanhood. Like, it's just like a drowning pit. It's like a molasses pit, like a quicksand. So if there could be a description of both. Yes, it was like a La Brea tar pit of despair. And so then I got into this online entrepreneurship game, which comes with a whole nother set of expectations and competition and timelines. And I was swallowed. So I recently turned 40 in June and I laid it all down. This year, I have not run an ad. I have not launched a program. And I've just been working with this recurring revenue that I have. And I needed the break. I needed the reset. I need to reconnect. So my 30s was the lost decade. But in here, standing proudly at 40, I can look back over the landscape of my 30s and say, you know what? That was your experiential wisdom. That's what you could take away from that. But I was not present, and I was totally adrift.
Thank you for saying that, because I felt like I was alone in that feeling. Like I don't remember a lot of I know what it felt like. I don't remember what it was. Like I know the feelings that I walked out of it with. So I turned 40 in November. So I'll be turning 41 in November. And so 40 felt like this place that I was supposed to be, and it felt like I was just about to get my footing, and then life hit again. So my mom passed in December. April, I went through a divorce. And so this whole year has kind of felt like before my mom passed, she kept saying like new beginnings, like 8 was the number of new beginnings. She kept saying number is 8. And what I did not process was that while I was embracing like, oh yeah, these new beginnings, what my brain didn't register was things end before things can begin. And so I feel like that whole piece of like walking into new also meant that I lost a lot of things. And people don't fit anymore. It's like me and Kish, I don't know about you, into clothes and shoes, and it's like that good pair of shoes, and all of a sudden like your instep done changed and your foot, they nice, but like it hurt, and you like you put your foot on it. It's pain. That's what a lot of my relationships started feeling like somewhere my instep changed, and they just don't feel good anymore, or they didn't feel good anymore. And I'm still in that phase. Like I was talking to Kishshana the other day, like people don't feel good anymore. And what that means for me around the age that I'm at and going through laws and the familiarity of walking now into a universe of individuals whom, for me, like dating or whatever, they don't know my parents. Like there's so much of my life that won't exist for them that I'll either have to introduce them to or not, right? So those comforts of familiarity or whatever are gone. But then also at the same time, business is figuring itself out, and I am leaning into my expertise more, and people are like, so it's like this best of times, worst of times. I call it like the intersection of grief and gratitude. It's like I'm grateful, but there's those other things, and I am at a point of also trying not to be driven by this biological clock that I'm extremely aware of, but also trying to figure out, the things that I thought I had time to do. Kids, for example, like, is this a thing that I get to do? And not wanting to move that pressure into my dating and professional decisions, right? Like trying to be present, trying to let these gentlemen have space, but also not waste, like all these things are running through your mind, pacing at the same time. And we're supposed to carry that all with grace. And in a way that is not off-putting for people, and not be urgent, and not be too passionate, and not be too big, but don't shrink, don't shrink, but don't be too big, don't whisper, but don't be too loud. It's just all the things that we're supposed to be
having a Goldilocks moment right now, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what most of our adulthood has been. Rochelle, ain't that the case? Like it is literally a case of the Goldilocks and 3 bears. Like the porridge is too hot. No, the porridge is too cold. When do we get to the just right porridge portion of the program, Rochelle?
Right.
Listen, I believe we're here right now. And so Kishshana mentioned it a little bit earlier, but like I have this theory, and it is been submitted for trademark, so don't try me. But
we have to tell the people, Joy.
It's called Overwhelmed Black Woman Syndrome, and it's OBWS. Okay. And so Overwhelmed Black Woman Syndrome is all about the pressures and the expectations that were thrust upon us by our mothers because they didn't get to achieve something. Right. So that's why I had to go to elocution lessons and do pageants and go to charm school. And, I had to be the best of the best. I had to know how to keep a husband and a baby and all of this before I left the home. And those were my mother's expectations because those were my grandmother's expectations. Now you couple that with the dynamic of how Black women navigate the world. We have to be very educated. We have to be very well spoken. We have to know how to make our booty clap. We have to know how to make biscuits from scratch. We have to know how to uplift our sisters and deal with our sisters' envy, jealousy, and expectations. We have to present as a professional, but also be of the culture. Like it's all of these expectations. And what professionalism is to us was, let's just face it, created by someone else. Like I'm looking at all of our hair, I'm looking at our nails, and that doesn't fit in the traditional mold of what it's supposed to be in corporate spaces. But yet we all want corporate money. Like all of us on here probably are 6-figure earners. I know we're 6-figure earners, the 3 of us, right? But it looks very different for us now in the 21st century. But at what cost, right?
Yeah,
so
at what cost?
I believe that we're just right now. And I think that the OBWS tells us it's like Black woman specific imposter syndrome, right? That's a part of it, but I think it tells us that we're not enough. I think it tells us that we're not fitting in the right spaces. Like these gentlemen callers, like I think it's perfectly fine to say, hey, Jack, John, Jim, yes, babies are in my immediate future. I deserve and I desire. And if that doesn't match up with what you deserve and desire, that's totally fine. But I think the idea that there's this sweet spot for others is the problem. And really, the sweet spot is here within us. And whatever that means for you in that moment is what it means. And I'm going to bring this up really quick. I read a lot about the young people, the Lori Harveys and the, some of the other young ladies that are really talking about a lot in popular culture. And one of the things that they really get a bad rap for is trying and failing. Like I don't know when it became bad to try. because all of us, we didn't have the social media. So we, you know, when you were dipping and dabbing with the brothers,
hello,
what you were doing. Nobody knew how you were making moves.
That's
and you
right.
didn't have Steve Harvey as a father, you know.
That's right.
So but I value the young lady for trying and failing. Now, of course, we would like for her to be a little bit more discreet. Those of us recycled teenagers that we are,
Yeah.
we want her to be a little bit more discreet. But I admire the woman for saying, "I'm gonna see," and I think that's what we need to be doing. We need to be
gonna see.
Right? Let me see and be okay with that.
Oh, I'm seeing in this season. Be very clear.
That's very clear. She said, "I'm seeing in this season. I am seeing. I'm here for the see.
I'm here for the see."
And so I think the way that shows up. So, you know, I want to make sure that folks are tracking with us on the trauma aspect. What we are describing are some of the effects and the affect of our lived experiences. And many of us have learned how to try to leave yourself at home so you can go be somebody different at work. And that in of itself is a trauma-inducing personality experience. I'm not a psychologist, y'all, psychotherapist, or any of the things. So if there's a professional name for it, drop it in the chat. Okay, help us out. But the experience to OBWS, for example, and joy to you in thinking about the intersection of grief and gratitude, right? That's what you're saying. Yeah, is that everywhere we go, there you are. So we are bringing the experiences we had. We dragging them behind us like a blankie. And so when you step into a leadership seat, and we see this all the time with folks who show up angry, they show up cutting and exact. You know, there's a lack of empathy and self-awareness in the way in which they approach people and their work.
Mm-hmm.
Or they will burn down the people to get to the outcomes.
Yeah.
If we dig and we probe into the experiences that those folks have had, I would put money on some mess went down at some point in your childhood, adolescence, early adulthood that has said to you, this is the way I need to show up in order to get to X outcome. And what the three of us are basically saying is that is exhausting. It's exhausting.
It is. And there's no time to rest. Like I was saying to somebody today, like, I'm tired, but it's not I don't need a nap. Mm-hmm. Like sleep is not
gonna help right now.
Right? Like there's an exhaustion. And I will say, because the only lived experience that I actually have is the experience of a Black woman, right? So I'm not dismissing the experience of anybody else. It's the only lived one I have, is that to the point of like, what is the right balance? Even when we show up in corporate spaces, we often, and I'll speak from the lens that I even sit in as an HR person and the role that I was in, one of the biggest struggles I used to have was the idea that I would be the sacrifice for other people while no one was advocating for me.
Yes.
So oftentimes, even as Black women in leadership, when we are trying to lead well, we are putting our necks on the line for folks when we don't have the advocacy that we give, right? So I'm a leader trying to make sure that my team has visibility, that my people are being promotable, that whatever, and I don't always get to lead Black folks.
That's right.
And I have to deal with people who will cut my throat to promote over me if there's somebody that they can connect to over me to kind of skip the line.
That's right.
People who see me as a threat, men who do not see me as an ally, but see me also as competition, right? So you have those things that are happening, while also fending for myself. So I'm fighting this way, and I got my own back in some of these instances. And when you are courageous enough to then circle yourself or surround yourself with other Black women, I remember Fortune 100 organization that I exited before I started my business. And I remember standing with another group of Black women having a conversation, and somebody walked by and was like, "Oh, y'all staging a coup?" That was the comment, like openly stated, not in 2001. This was 2019, right? Whoa. This was very, and the comment was like, and feeling like in that moment, like I didn't even know the appropriate response. Right, because anything that I said possibly was going to frame me as angry or whatever, right?
Yes.
And I was angry at the statement, but like that, the worst thing you could do is be framed as that, right? So I think those are the kinds of things that like we've navigated. But I think that's the conundrum of being a Black woman in leadership, is that oftentimes we have the backs of everybody else, and the people that have our backs can be like counted on one hand with four fingers cut off, right? Like with 4 fingers cut off and half a thumb, right? Like those things. And I think those are the moments, not everybody's lived experience, but that has been mine, that I did not have people that had my back. And so, and then in HR, advocating for people, right? Like I remember advocating for people's annual reviews when I knew my review was getting dragged.
Yes.
Right? Like I knew I was about to get a poor review because I refused to take on the work of somebody that made double my salary without compensation. So I knew that my review was going to be tarnished.
Correct.
While I was also advocating for other people to have fair reviews.
So before we move on to that, like, so here's what's coming from the comments. Letitia says to us, it's a different kind of fatigue for sure. As we talked about the fact that you're not trying to get a nap and yet your body's like, go lay down somewhere. Right. And Carlos said that hurt people hurt people. And then Monique said, wow, Joy, you just hit home. I'm fighting for others, but no one is fighting for me. And Rochelle, you have talked about this so many times over the years, particularly because you have a creative discipline. Enjoy y'all in the types of work both of y'all do. People are not really seeking me out for leadership coaching in the same way they're gonna seek you out to design a birthday card, a wedding invitation. Could you make this logo for the such and such? It's like the Queenager is going to college, God willing, next year, and I want to get her a car. And her godmother said to me, hold off on getting her a car until after her first semester freshman year, because we got to make sure that the people that make friends with her are making friends because they like her and not because she's the chick with the whip. And that didn't even occur to me because I didn't have a car as a freshman. I had a car as a sophomore. But y'all, it's the same. So Rochelle, talk about how you had to make peace with, listen, my desk moving up and down. You had to make peace with telling folk, I'm not the friend who you can call for that stuff anymore. And then folk being like, oh, you don't want to be that friend? And then they were gone.
So I think that when you have a talent or a gift, you know, the expectation is that you should share that talent or gift with those who love you.
That's right.
And to some extent you do. But then somebody like me, who I've already shared, is unpacking and unraveling the expectations that were thrust upon me by my mother. I began to navigate the relationship with my mother by being of service, right? Let me do these things I know she's going to value and appreciate in advance of her asking. I'm anticipating her need so that I do not have to feel whatever I'm going to feel when I fall short of her expectations. So I have carried that into relationships. Mostly every relationship I've ever had, I enter that relationship by being of service. Then I started a business that became successful as a service provider. And then I found myself over delivering, right? I want my clients to be evangelicals. I want them spreading the gospel of rose red, etc., from seed to shining seed.
Seed to shining seed.
Therefore, I'm not going to flag when it's scope creep, right? I'm not going to flag when we need to renegotiate. I'm not going to flag when you have run afoul of my team member and you have spoken ill of my team member and demoralized them. And so I started advocating for myself because I recognized that in every single area where the intersection between me and someone else was service. And Kishshana and I have had conversations and she was like, wow, I didn't know you felt that way. Because I didn't say it, I just did it, right? And so that I created this very permissive environment wherein people felt that it was okay to say, hey girl, whip it up for me real quick.
Whip it up.
Make it. I need you to sing at my wedding. Okay, sure. When is it? Tomorrow. You know, like there's just always, as a creative person, it's a service-based life. But you get to decide what the levels of access are. You get to create a hierarchical structure wherein people do not get that close to you. You have lots of ways to create boundary, but I never really did that until very close to the age I am now. And once I did that, it was like a fall, like a season of fall in my life. People started dropping like the leaves on a Japanese maple in Georgia.
It's the specificity for me. Okay, it's the
specificity.
And now I'm free. I'm free because everybody understands that I love you, I value you, or as a client, I appreciate you. As a team member, you're a valued member of this team and you help this company to run. But I am not in your debt on a daily basis for whatever it is you may need, whenever it is you may need it. And so what it was doing for me is it was turning me, I was becoming embittered because I was embattled. So I was creating trauma, I believe, in my relationships and with my team members because I was angry about the fact that no one said, and I said this to Kishshana, this was one of our defining moments. We talk about our relationship all the time, y'all. And I think we've said this on one of the other calls, but I said to her, I said, Kishshana, would you have stopped asking me for things, if I had never said anything? She was like, probably not. And meanwhile, I was like, oh my God, like I wow. But to her, it was like, this is my sister. We're co-creating. We're making good stuff, So I just think that speaking up and personal advocacy is important because, to your point, Joy, who is going to advocate for you? No one's going to advocate for you like you. And sometimes I feel like we don't deserve advocacy. We feel like we don't deserve advocacy.
Mm-hmm. I get so one, thank you, because I'm getting I feel less lonely in this. I think my struggle right now has been, and again, I was talking to Kishshana. That's probably why she said, girl, you coming on here, because I'm literally fresh out of lash appointment. But I feel like one of my struggles has been that I know that I need to set those boundaries, but because of how much I'm navigating grief and loss, fear around setting those boundaries and losing more has me like on a cusp, right? If I be absolutely honest. So I enter most of my relationships from a place of service. What do you need? I very rarely talk about what I need or how things impact me or how they make me feel. My hope is that people would at some point be like, dang, she's pouring a lot out. Is it you good? Right. And like hold space for the answer. But I don't know that I've made an accountability point of that and saying like, this is what I need back from this relationship. But I'm absolutely clear that I am fearful that if I set those boundaries, there are very few people that I think would stay. And that has me very nervous because I've already lost a lot. And so there's just some comfort and familiarity. And I know that my head knows that I need to do the thing and my heart knows too, but that reconciliation has been a struggle. And I'm not gonna say I don't know that I would survive it, but it's just a heavy thought to be like, there would be more loss right now. So I think that I am entertaining things that I probably know I shouldn't in relationships that I know I shouldn't, but I'm just trying to manage what I can take. Like what hits can I take right now and survive emotionally. And I'm forgetting that we are talking to a lot more people than the three of us, but I'm okay with saying that now because I'm hoping that transparency helps somebody. That I think that women sometimes, even in our relationships, we have recognized at some point that these people ain't it, but we're scared of what their absence means. And so what do you do when you know that the present people are not the people, but their absence also has impact and you're just kind of stuck? Like, what does that feel like? I mean, that's where I feel like I am right now, if I be really honest.
And that's a beautiful space of awareness and also knowing that there needs to be like some kinetic energy. Like you need, you need to move forward. But what I'll say to you, Joy, is like I personally, because I feel like when people advise other people, like I'm advising you from my lens. I've had loss, but I haven't had your loss, So what I will say is that I had to have a forest fire, and Kishshana was there for my forest fire. Like and it was the pandemic. Like I had a Zoom meeting for all those women who I felt like were treating me as like their personal design / creative departments. And I said, for 20 years, you have been treating me this way. And it burned down the old relationships and we're building new ones. And it's slow and it's awkward and it's frustrating because I want that old thing back. Like I want the fun, but they know they're experiencing some trepidation right now because they know, oh, I can't call Rochelle for the blah, 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 blah. One girl started like doing some of the things I used to do because she couldn't use me to do it. Like, and now she's developing her design skills, right? Like, And I know that's funny, but it's the truth. Like, I think that the new growth that's sprouting up, I would much rather have these like kind of awkward relationships with them than being secretly resentful. Because I've lived my entire life like in the space of guilt, shame, anger, frustration, and resentment.
Yeah.
And just to swing it back around to our topic, that has like permeated the barrier between myself and the people I lead.
Yes. And it's so crazy. So let me just go to the chat. So we have a lot of comments coming in now. The relationship with mom informing how we navigate professional relationships. I feel that, all caps. Ramona says, I'm doing the same thing, but never considered how childhood trauma reflected into the current role I play among others. Letitia says, same here. And I get upset when it's not matched, that energy, that service, that commitment. And she says, and also unspoken expectation. That's really what's popping out. Monique says, yes, Joy, your transparency is helping us. Many of us are in the boat with you. And Carlos says, so grateful for your vulnerability and honesty because your feelings are relevant and relatable. I love Carlos. I met him on Thursday at AFP Lead. He's a joy. And so the truth of the matter is that I think one of the things that we don't get to do because there is not space to catch it is to be able to walk through publicly the aspects of leadership and the trauma that informs how we actually lead so that we can safely get passage to the other side. You know, each of us are public speakers. We are keynotes. We are coaches for our particular industries. We are the people folk go to, not just for our disciplines, but for other disciplines too. And yet have said, oh, I feel alone in this. I was talking to a friend, another person who I admired and respect deeply in her field. And we were talking about the difference between being an imposter and a fraud. And I said to her, you know, I don't know if I really suffer from imposter syndrome because I know I am the shiz. What I worry about is, will people find out that I have raggedy edges and that it is very tough for me to get all the way to the end of tasks, of thoughts, that I struggle with the ideation because it comes at me so heavy and fast, and I have not yet been able to find the Voltron of professionals who are excited to be the legs and the arms. Everybody want to be the head.
The Voltron.
You know, just boop, 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 boop. And the way that shows up for me is in the constantly fighting the need to take off my cape and tossing it on the floor in anger, frustration, upset, being disappointed by people. So then coming into new relationships, business relationships, interpersonal relationships, friendships, with the side eye. And if people can't show up with their A1 day one, A1 sauce on the perfectly grilled, I must be hungry, y'all.
Oh, I know I am.
Steak, then I don't want no parts of it. Which means that people are intimidated by me. They will quit before they start because they think they're going to fail me. Where I'm like, well, if you think you're going to fail me, step up. And they're like, you know what? Actually, I'm going to step out. And because I still have a desire to please, then I end up settling for the B work, which makes me feel more like a fraud because I know it's not the right work. So I keep trying to do more. Y'all, I'm on this. That means my leadership style has become catawampus overnight. And y'all are looking at me like, oh, shoot. What did I say, y'all, that has made y'all, Rochelle, your eyes are bugged out. Are we all wearing clear glasses today? I love it.
Yeah, we are. So let me say this. Mm-hmm. What made my eyes bug out of my head was the fact that I didn't know you were going to say your leadership style was cattywampus, but what it felt like it was building up towards is that has you off kilter.
Yes.
Right. You're on quicksand. You're on sinking sand, as they would say down to the Kojic church house. Come on. Okay. And so
built on sinking sand.
Listen, when you're on sinking sand, how can you strategize? How can you plan? How can you develop a leadership style? How can you be present for other people? Because the thing that you didn't say that I've witnessed personally as you've been building your consultancy and building your company is, you know, you're also building team. And Joy can speak to this because team members require fertilizer, they require sunlight, and they require water. They require all kinds of, they have so many needs. And so if you want to build these team members to be able to stay, you have to be consistent in your leadership style, but the folks throw you off. It is like, and then your life experiences and your trauma is throwing you off. And so by the end of it, like, I don't know about you, but I feel like every slave movie, the clothes is ratty-tatty. And I feel like the clothes in the slave movie, I'm done. I don't have anything left to give y'all. I'm incomplete. And so because I've witnessed you do that with your team, and then when Kishshana was having issues with her team, I'd be like, oh, well, girl, this is what I do. I use the click up, and we have this thing, and we have the team meetings, and it's going great. Meanwhile, I'm like, it's not going great. Like, I'm a failure as a leader. I read all the books. Like, what am I gonna do? Like, I can't do this. Like, if I read your world-class CEO, your world-class administrative assistant one more time, like, where is that admin that's in this book? I've done this. Like, where are the people? And so it just resonated with me because I think that this is another area where there's a ton of expectation, and we just don't always have the juice, the sunlight, the water, and the fertilizer to give these folks after they come in, open up their behind and show us their anus.
That's it.
I don't have it.
I don't have it. Joy, talk about it. Because Joy done. Joy, tell us a word.
Yeah. So, I went from telling people how to build their teams to building one. Here's what I will say. And these are the things that I have learned to give myself grace on in my team building, because I had one of my team members hit me up the other day and be like, I want to resign, like one of my strongest team members, and she was like, I'm overwhelmed, and you are running at a pace that we cannot keep up with. And I realized that I'm running from my own ish, but I'm dragging them with me, right? Like, my pace, I'm making them pace up. I'm making them take on more projects because I am saying yes to the things, because I'm building a business more out of fear of failure than excitement about success, right? Because I built this thing that's big. And so now it's big, and I got to make payroll, and I'm the HR person. So my team got to be the best team, because how do I sell team if my team is like all those things? And two things happened is that she called me, and when I looked at her face, she looked exhausted. Like, I'm used to looking tired. That's the role I play, but she looked exhausted, and she was crying on the call. And I had to pause for a minute and be like, what's going on? And I will tell y'all, like, what this season has made me do is be a lot more conscious and aware of the fact that perfect is a construct that does not exist. Right. It is a goal post. It keeps moving. It is a hope and a dream. It's a wing and a prayer, but it does not actually exist for most people. And so I've stopped aspiring to perfection and started trying to figure out, like, what do I actually need for today's success, right? For success in this moment. But when she first, because of how I am and how I'm built, and Kish will tell you, I'll make it work. Like, it's going to work. It's going to be what it's going to be. So when she told me that and said she wanted to quit, I was like, all right, how much notice you giving? Like, my show, I was giving a lot of shows. You
was giving a pocket.
Look,
how many of us have had that leadership trauma? It show up in our body language.
What you telling me? What you doing? And she started talking through the stuff that needed to transition over. And I'm gonna say it was God. Believe in whatever voice you believe to talk to you. My voice is God. And he was like, "So you gonna do this by yourself?" And she's not my only team member, but she's such a main part of, like, my admin, like the stuff that I do. Yeah. And I finally said to her, I was like, so as I'm writing the things down, I said, okay, so my next question is, what's plan B? Because I don't accept. So she was like, what? I was like, yeah, what's plan B? Because I don't accept your resignation. So how do we figure this out? Because I actually need you. Right. Like, everything to the side, I actually need you to be here. So what is plan B? What do we got to figure out? What do we need to do to make this work? Because I don't got the impression that you want to leave. I just feel like you don't think you can stay. So what are we doing, right? And we talked about her schedule. We talked about things. But I also had to go back to the rest of my team, because I also had to be aware that she was telling me what they were also feeling, right? And so I went back to them and I apologized to them for just being in my own space. Like, I am running this thing from absolute fear and panic And so I am literally running this business like a fire's chasing us, and I'm trying to drag y'all out, and the kids are stumbling, and their knees is scraped up, and somebody lost a shoe, and the book bag is open, and we just like, and that's, you can't lead from that place, right? You can't lead from the place of failure, of fear of failure, right?
And it's not just entrepreneurs, Joy, right? It's not just entrepreneurs.
It's teams too. It's in our organizations, especially as Black women and people of color. We can't run our teams like we can't be the family. You know, it's like our parents. Like we went in the store, all the kids are acting up, but you better not. You better not show it, because it means so much more. So even when we build our teams, we do one of two things: either we hold Black folks to a higher standard because we don't want to be the one that let in all the mediocre Blacks.
That's right.
Right. So that's the one piece.
We don't talk about that though, but we naming it right now.
Or we bring in people and then we hold them to a higher standard because we don't want to be the subpar Black team. So as the leader of the team, everything has to be on goal, on 12, on whatever. And sometimes it's okay to just be like, hey, we met. You know, that like, I didn't need to exceed expectations. Like the 3 was good, right? Like there was a 1, 2, 3 scale. There was a does not meet, meets, exceeds. I'm good with 2. I'm good being in this middle because we don't leave room for our own humanity and for the humanity of our teams. And to Kishshana's point, the people that are connected to us that want to make us happy, that see us as amazing Black women and role models and people that they want to win and support, we intimidate them and we make them feel like they are failing because they're not at perfection, right? Or we make them almost like scared to do the wrong thing. So then they're stuck not doing anything. And then we're frustrated with them that they're not taking more leadership and ownership, but we have not given them professional courage. We're not giving them space to feel like they can mess up. And so because of those things, I think for us, it is a pacing of setting an expectation of like, what is meeting expectations? And I think that has been helpful to me in both my career and now with my clients is let us map out what meeting of expectations is so that I'm not running against a benchmark that I set for me that's way beyond anything that's expected of anybody else. And now I'm constantly wearing myself out and my team out trying to chase this bar. And if you come back with expectations that were not on our discussion where we were open and talking about it, then I'm asking you when that became part of the expectation. Yeah. Right. But that, and I'll wrap here, that also came with, and this is the scary part of this, you have to almost, as a Black woman, be seasoned enough in your career to be confident to take those stances because early on, you're just happy to have had your foot in the door.
That's right. And there's so much conversation about just having your foot in the door. Rochelle, don't you see that all the time, particularly with creatives? Like people just happy to be here. I just want to focus on the work. I just keep taking on more stuff when you haven't mastered time management, right?
That's a critical skill. And the thing is that also creative archetypes, like we want to be seen. Because oftentimes we lead with the creative. That is our space in the world. So, you know, and I want everybody to think about creatives in the space of a Beyonce, the Megan Thee Stallion, the Drake, the athletes, you know, all these, well, not the athletes, but more so the entertainers and the artists, because those are people who are revered for their art. That is what we desire, right? So we spend all this time on the art, but we don't spend time on social skills. We don't spend time on communication. We don't spend time understanding project management. And we also don't spend time understanding the archetypes of the people who are working with us, right? So I think that creative people are always in the space of like, I'm just so glad to be here. I am so happy to be here, right? Like right. Eddie Murphy, right? But the thing is, what happens very quickly is that we realize like, oh my gosh, I am not prepared. I don't understand this time management stuff. And then the client is ratcheting up their expectations, right? Because Kishshana cycled through some creative people before and after we worked intimately with each other. And I would always be like, Kishshana, but the creative person, they need this space to create. And they need to, like, how are you talking about the deadlines? And how are you talking about, and
I need it tomorrow.
Listen, right? Right. And you work with somebody excellent who exceeds expectations all the time. What happens when you get somebody that starts at that their thing is 2, right? But you're so used to 18.
Correct.
You know,
and I used to say, and this is the trauma part, right? So Joy, you brought this up about the standard being higher. That starts at the house, right? And so my mother didn't really clearly articulate that I had to be better than everybody else. My dad used to always say, he's alive, my dad would say, you are your only competition. He'd also be like, did you do your best? But my mom handled it. Everybody know Mama Dawn. Are you the leader? You are not a follower. And sometimes people just need to be followers. Like, I need you to get in where you actually fit in. And so many of our leadership trauma styles, to me, and I need to dig more into it because I know there's the science out there. So if y'all are watching this and there's real science that y'all want me, don't let me go and do the Googles. Just drop the link that I need to be looking
But also
at.
think, to your point, Kish,
Yeah.
that whole push to be the leader also sometimes makes you the takeover person.
Yes.
Because now if the expectation is that I lead, if I wasn't assigned to lead, I start taking over the lead because I got to go home and say I was the leader. I got to go home and say that I wasn't following.
Correct.
And so we start not only over volunteering, but we're not taught to be team players. We're not taught to actually support and be good number two. I will tell y'all, early in my career, I was a terrible number two because I was trying to get number one out the way.
That's it.
Because I needed to be also the leader because, being the assistant
wasn't it.
Like that's
not my destiny.
I be the assistant. Right? I'm destined for greatness.
Can I introduce the concept of provision in following?
Woo!
Absolutely.
There's
I'm going to be taking notes
about it.
We get a lot of folks who watch this on the replay, so I need y'all to drop replay and the nuggets you are getting from this.
Because they don't teach us that.
They don't teach us that.
Number one, they say number one is frontline, and number two sometimes is where you need to be.
And check this out. When you are, my son is named Picard after Captain Picard, the best Star Trek captain there is. Okay, but Picard had number one. His name was Riker, right? Number one made sure Picard could lead. Number one made sure that the team was insulated from Picard and his mood swings and his sometimes brash leadership style, right? So there is provision in being a follower.
Yep.
When you're a natural leader, they can put you in a broom closet and you're gonna lead the mop and the broom. Yep. Like, it doesn't matter if you're a natural leader and you're, part of the choir. You don't have to have the solo. And there is provision in that, because another thing is the captain takes the hits. Your team's not performing. Your team's over budget. You've run afoul of someone in the higher ups, whatever, right? The person who's the leader takes the bullets. And so I think it's okay to just be in the chorus sometimes. And as Black women who are talented, you graduated at 16. Kishshana graduated and went straight through to master's degree. I made a perfect on the verbal part of the SAT, got great scholarships, went to school, but I burned out because I was drained from having to meet other people's expectations. It was soul crushing, right? And so now, because we're high achievers, as naturally good leaders and high achievers and intelligent women, the expectation is that we should be first. And I think that is that's such a unfair position to put us in. And the other thing that I want to introduce is, what about this idea of excellence? I don't know when that came around either, but like, excellence is very subjective. Excellence is subjective. Like, whatever my son's level of cleanliness is not clean. Like, it's subjective. And so I think that we need to allow our desires and our expectations to be this intrinsic thing, so that we are not led essentially astray and put in positions where we feel like we are subpar because we are not first, because we are not the leader, because we are not, at the top of the class, or, getting to be in the C-suite at age 17. It's okay.
We're not Doogie Howser, MD. We're not.
Right, Doogie Howser.
And I also think, as we're thinking about this and thinking about excellence, I think we also think about time. The idea that after 40, if you have hit these things before 30 or before 40, you have failed, as if life ends at that number, right? Mm-hmm. Like even that, the pacing that we do towards checking off the fact that we've done it. I think that pacing. Also, I don't know who made up these numbers. So when you actually look at real success, most of those people are not 28, but essentially who made up these numbers. And I think it creates the idea of scarcity for us. Right. Scarcity of time, scarcity of opportunity. So it does create sometimes a little bit of savagery, right, around how we're trying to grow and build. And I will say, like, that whole idea of even being a number two, I had to go back, and I think, let me say something. There's a power in apologies. I feel like acknowledging and identifying where you were toxic AF and going back and acknowledging that is keeping somebody else's healing. But I had to go back and apologize to some of the people I supported and be like, I was brilliant. I was smart. I helped get a lot of things done, but I also sabotaged a little. I also uncovered some of the areas that I should have been covering as your number two. I also kind of exposed some of those things because I was trying to speed up my pace. Yes. Right. And, you know, especially when those number twos were Black women, right? I had to go back and look at some of that stuff and see, like, in the moments where I saw them as a hurdle and not as like my sister, like winning together. Right. And this is what this natural looks like. So I had to own some of that in my early 20s, late 20s, early 30s. I got it together around my 30s. Like, girl, what we doing? But
that's
I had to go back and revisit some of that stuff. So I think the conversations like this are important. I think it's also important that we're not leading teams and making them feel like they're each other's hurdles, right? And giving them all, being able to help them pace their lanes. I'm gonna be clear about the lanes that they fit in. So even when we think about leadership, and this is one of the things when we started HR for the Culture, I was intentionally talking to Black business owners and being like, y'all can be toxic too.
That's right.
Let's talk about what it is, because if we are going to make these commitments to hiring Black folks and building Black teams, and we also have to be mindful about what that means. And it's not just about giving them a paycheck. What environments do we need to intentionally be creating so that Black talent can thrive? Right? Because we've already know what it is to survive experiences. What do we do to thrive in them? And I actually hold that even now. Like when people tell me they have these initiatives with Black folks, great. Other than the roles and the salaries, what are we intentionally building in to make sure that Black talent comes in and has a safe place?
And I think that is a part of the traumatic experience that we are not digging into, and that a lot of the like self-management conversations is actually pretty surface. Y'all, I shared that if we want to get more into the topic of the excellence chase that we're doing, listen to the episode 13, Can I Just Be Basic, on Let's Take It Offline, the podcast for everyday leaders. And also while you're there, make sure you listen to Making Time for Play that I did with Rochelle in season 1, and Can I Really Be Authentic at Work that I did with Joy in season 1, because there's just more nuggets to have. Y'all, we have been talking for a little bit over an hour and probably could talk all day. Okay, like that's the crazy part about this conversation is part 1 of many. That's why I was like, I'm gonna just be bringing on my friends. Y'all just gonna hear our phone conversations recorded live, because y'all need to just take these nuggets and run with it. So let me just share some comments before I end, because I know folks will watch this in a replay. So y'all make sure that whether you're looking at this on LinkedIn, on Facebook, I've tagged Joy and Rochelle on Facebook, on their business pages, and on their personal pages. But don't be trying to be their friend unless you're trying to be their friend. Okay, don't be trying to be their friend and then sell them stuff. We're not buying. And so let me give you some comments before we jump off. When we talked about like when we're watering others, who waters us, Dominique says no one. And Dominique just said, when we talked about like being in the room, it's me. Sometimes I'm just happy to be here as I'm holding all this other stuff. And Monique has said, I taught others about time management. And I feel like I can't even get my own stuff together. And then Monique says, people get so used to leading and then assume we're going to lead when we should not, or do not want to, or need to. And for me, it created isolation. And I'm like, whoa, like that's a drop of clues bomb. I wish I had them. I need to put it on my Stream Deck so I can be. That's what I need to do. Who's gonna put the sounds on my Stream Deck, y'all? Because I can't do it. I just have the equipment.
Right.
And then drop a clues bomb. And then Dominique says, excellence, magic, all of that. What happened to just existing? So,
Can I just be?
Can I just be? So I think that what we're seeing here in this initial conversation, and we're going to come back and continue to dig into this, is that people just really want to know more about how to just be and how to develop a leadership style that is not heavily influenced by the foolishness and the chicanery. And we are figuring it out together. So I just want to thank you, Rochelle, and thank you, Joy, for being willing to answer my text message. Y'all want to come on my live? Didn't even know what the topic was. It was just like
at 5:40, and I'm on here talking in a parking lot, right?
That's right. Okay, that's the kind of that's the kind of expertise we drive. Didn't even know the topic. It was like, what are we talking about? So I want to thank y'all both for your time today. I'm going to put y'all back into the studio. Y'all, before I do that, I want you to make sure that you are connecting with Rochelle. I have her handle and her website, roseredetc, and at rosered, etc. at all socials. And so make sure that you are following, connecting with her. Don't be coming to her for no broke ass needs around design. Okay. Like if you're not coming with the agency perspective of the whole organization redo, just sit at the house. Okay. Just admire her work from afar and buy all of the stationery products she has at the Rose Red Paper Studio. And if you are thinking about turning around your team, Joy and I are about to jump into a huge project right now. If you're thinking about not just to make sure your team is sound, but the operations, systems, processes, and procedures of your teamwork, Joy is the person that you want to bring on. Her team is phenomenal, and they are very nice and warm. Just also, it's very important to have kind, warm people in the world. So make sure you connect with her at hrfortheculture.com and at the Joy you need. Across, I know definitely Instagram, and then Joy Pittman. She's probably the only person you're gonna know. She's real cute. Across all of the socials. So I want to thank y'all so much. Everybody had asked about my sweatshirt. And so if you want the sweatshirt, look, it says but it's because I said so, apparel.myshopify.com. Tanisha texted me back and use the code KISH, KISH for 10% off. And then y'all can grab, let me stand up again and show y'all the cute shirt that she did. Wait a minute, where's the camera? Okay. Just a cute little shirt, impact over influence, which is what I love. That's what I'm about. So I love that she was able to put that out. And again, if you want to think more about the topic we talked about today, jump into Can I Just Be Basic, which is our episode 13 on Let's Take This Offline. I'm going to have Joy and Rochelle back. I'll put y'all back in the studio. Y'all, before I go, if you are like, dang, Kishshana, I really just need more time with y'all to talk about all of this stuff. Like, I'm here for it. I need to spend more time digging in. I need to get myself sorted at work. I need to get my team sorted. I need to get my life sorted. Y'all know I am, well, you might not know. I am a certified leadership coach and life coach and wellness coach, IFC certified coach, and Clifton Strengths coach. I don't have all the certifications, y'all. So jump in for a half day with me. It is an investment that will change your trajectory. If you want to just do things on your own, make sure you go to learn.kishshanaco.com where you can get bite-sized trainings and workshops that I'm working on that will help you to be a better manager and leader. And I'm always excited that I'm going to be doing Kish Camp one more time before the year ends in December. And so go ahead and go on to kishco.info/Kish Camp so that you can sign up for one of our 2 December sessions. And because I'm going to be retiring that in the new year for some other work. So making sure that we are connected. Let me look at the comments before we slide out. Yes, everybody's sending me love. Best hour I've spent in a long while. Come through. I love that. Well, we're going to have more guests like this on, my friends who are going to come on and just talk to y'all and get us right and together for 2023. I'm going to have the author of one of my favorite books in the whole world. Let me see if I can find it, y'all. Y'all know that I'll be volunteering stuff and then I'll be forgetting. Wait a minute. I'm going to have some of my friends on as authors who are going to be talking to us about all the things on over the next couple of weeks. But in the meantime, I want to wish y'all a wonderful week. Drop your comments. If you watch this in the replay, make sure you put replay. If there's a friend you need to send this to, tell them the best hour of your life and send it to them. And I'll be back next week for another shot of vitamin K. I am so glad that y'all got to spend this time with me, and I am out. So I'll see y'all soon.